And before we start, I think we should give Carol and Sougwen a very, very warm welcome. It's wonderful that we can here introduce Carol and Sougwen to each other. They have never met before, and very often that is so exciting about DLD. I would propose an artist, and then Steffi would propose a scientist or technologist, and that's exactly what happened here. We spoke about Sougwen's amazing practice as a researcher, as a widely regarded pioneer in human-machine collaboration. We're going to hear more from Sougwen about that, about the collaboration between humans and machine and the way how robotics enter their art. And Steffi immediately talked about Carol's amazing practice. Carol is known as the mother of robots. And about, of course, not only Carol's inventions with technology, about the invention of Drive AI, but also Carol's work in art and the kind of bridge to art, the close collaboration with music, with composers such as Nicolas Bretel, or also the great Esa-Pekka Salonen with the Deep Music AI. And so we're going to hear from both of them about their practice. And I thought it would be interesting in terms of course, experiments with technology to think about the beginnings. And I wanted to ask you both to tell us a little bit, not only in relation to art, but in a wider way, because I think the wonderful thing about robotics is that it brings so many things together. It brings literally all fields together. To maybe tell us how you came to robotics, or maybe we could also ask how robotics came to you. So, Gwen, let's begin.
It's such an honor to be here. Thank you, Hans. I think about robots a lot. And how the question of how robotics came to me is an exciting one, because I think I come from a music background. My mother's a computer programmer, my father's an opera singer. So I was really invested in this idea of kind of co-evolving with an instrument, creative expression, and really thinking about the language of technology. And that really came to fruition when I was at MIT Media Lab and thinking about how to extend my art practice beyond myself, to collaborate with a machine, to have that take place in a physical space with me. And that coincided with what we were talking about a little bit earlier too, this idea of the beauty of a non-human move, which is very much explored through this idea of building machines and building an art practice. So I feel like robotics really came to me through that desire for partnership, and also this desire to understand a little bit more about the world around me.
Thank you, Sougwen. And Carol, what about you? How did robotics came to you, or how did you come to robotics?
Yeah, so I've been in the space of AI and robotics for the last 25 years, and I was not a child hacker prodigy who loved engineering when they were 5, but my first coding class was in college. And I grew up in Washington State, and that was the time of the .com. And so I was looking for how do I set myself up for the future, what was cool. And a mentor told me that your job may not be invented yet. And I think that really resonated for me and where I placed my skill set. And at that time, robotics was not really a job, but the coolest thing I could think of to do with an application to learn engineering. So that was how I got started, and since then my relationship with robotics has gone through several different eras, from underwater space, surgical robotics, self-driving cars, and now into the arts. And through that thread has been a desire to want to help people, and I view robotics as an extension of who we are, to super amplify. So if you want to be a super precise surgeon, surgical robotics would be one way to do it. Humans are not perfect, and to work together with robotics and couple through that has been the lens I look through the world.
Thank you. So I wanted to also ask you to tell us about this idea of co-creation, this idea how actually the collaboration between humans and machine can be more than 1 + 1 equals 2. At the Serpentine, we always say 1 + 1 = 11. That's what we need to aim at. And this co-creation is, of course, in both of your practices, deeply interdisciplinary. I want to begin, Sougwen, with you, because in 2023, you wrote a very personal reflection in the New York Times entitled "Where Does AI End and We Begin?" And you began actually your journey of co-creation, interestingly enough, exactly like Carol, also more than 20 years ago. And you began it actually by meticulously scanning more than 20 years of worth of your drawing into a system. And you then developed a way to train a recurrent neural network. And that's really the beginning of your human-machine collaboration. So maybe we can hear a little bit about that.
Yeah,
and maybe also, I think you brought films, so maybe we can see a short extract, because I always think it's great to see concrete practice. You said before, what is important now is to do.
What is important is to do, exactly. And I think being able to show that process in motion, I think we're doing it a little bit out of sequence, but we have some of the visual documentation of some of these performative moments that I've created with my robotic system, Drawing Operations Unit Generation 1, now in its 6th generation, if you can believe it. But I think the generation you're speaking of, memory, was Generation 2. And it was very much a way of trying to understand my own artistic archives, to really find a different type of meaning in this continued devotion and pursuit of drawing and expression through the very simplest means. You know, we all have little scrapbooks of papers and you know, different projects that we've made from childhood. And I think what would it be like to invoke some of those memories, those pieces as part of a data set, to really engage with them in a new way, in a physical way, not just as a memory. So that was a really watershed moment for me, because I, through that, realized, and I've been thinking about this a lot today, that we live in a very immense world. We live in an immense world of technology, but we also have an immense inner landscape that's quite difficult to parse, to find grounding in. That's been the charge of art, but also of science and engineering. So that was really one of these watershed moments where I could regard my own art as a exploration to uncover. And since then, we've been working with Biosignal, we've been working with different forms of custom robotics to really expand what our idea of creation is.
Should we look at the short clip, maybe?
Yeah. Here's one of them. This is one of the, oh, it seems like it's skipping over some of the video, unfortunately. But I was interested in this idea of collaboration as an exercise in behavioral empathy. So through this system, we've engaged with public data, with personal data, with biosignal data to find a different artistic sense out of a machinic apparatus. So it's been quite exciting. Here.
And maybe we can hear, Carol, from you as well about this collaboration really between humans and machines. It's interesting, Sougwen, actually, you once told me working with the robotic units has made me more interested in collaborating with humans. And Carol, you mentioned similar thoughts this morning at breakfast. You also told Sougwen and me about this idea even that you're interested in actually saving lives with robotics. So maybe we can hear from you about this topic.
Yes, great question. My work and research has always been with humans in the loop. Like, I'm very interested not to cut out the human, but how do we enhance humans? Because the biological process has taken us like thousands, millions, billions of years to like kind of evolve, and we're not optimal, right? We only see a small field of view. We have hand tremor. We're on bipedal, but we fall over. We get old. So there's a bunch of things that are not optimal about us. And instead of waiting another like hundreds of billions of years, let's speed it up, or can we build technology to enhance how we are physically built, and some of our shortcomings. So I worked in haptics, which is the sense of touch. So how can you add that? Humans typically can't go scale down or pick up boulders, but could you add and enhance our 5 senses to complete a task more effectively, faster? So I worked in haptics, and then I started working in computer vision and recognizing objects. and all that to say, I'm very interested in going where no man has gone before or woman, and just exploring not only completing tasks quicker and faster, but how we connect with each other, exploring. I think we're coming up against like an existential crisis at this point, and trying to question how we want this future to look and what we want to do with our time, what new jobs will be created. And I do think that kind of brought me into the world of like the arts and creativity. Was very interested to really explore that for the next chapter.
Do you also want to show us a clip?
I think it'll be playing in the background, but in case you see some, my approach, this is a self-driving car. This is for Drive AI. We were acquired by Apple in 2019. And since then, I've been working in the space of AI and music and interactive robotics. So I'm very interested in that soft spot where humans and robots interact, and what that social behavior will be and how that works, if it's human, robot, human, or a human to the audience. So we've got things like joke-telling robots, where you can look at an audience and figure out the next joke to pull. And my personality also comes from a very playful one. So I think anytime we're learning a new technology, I want to look at it through as many lenses as possible and experiment and allow failure. So those are just some of like a brief overview of some of these projects and working on live performances.
And
I'm curious about the live performances.
I think you say.
I'm curious about the live performances. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think that liveness is so much, it's so not editorial. It's so much research and action, and it challenges us to come up with our own conceptions of what is happening, and it's a very fertile space, I think.
And I think it's like one of the things that, in my mind, is the only last real thing, because everything that's recorded could be deep faked. So like the only thing that matters is what at this point, like, I think you believe we're real up on stage right now. And it's like, how do we react, and how can you guys impact our conversation? And what can we do that will change the outcome at this moment in time with this particular audience? And that idea really interests me.
I love this idea of performance, because on January the 1st, 2000, I had a phone call from Matthew Barney. And we wished each other a happy new year, a happy new millennium. And he made this very interesting remark that he said, in this digital age, because it was, of course, earlier times, but still it was clear that we were in a digital age. He says there's going to be an increasing desire for live experience. And I mean, that's exactly what happened. That's happened in music, that's happened all over the place in art with performance. So maybe it's interesting to hear a little bit more. It's an unexpected term, because I didn't think we were going to talk about this, but I think it's a super exciting topic.
I can talk about performance.
Yeah, so I want to hear from you, Sougwen, about performance, and then maybe also, Carl, from you a little bit more concretely how you do work with composers and musicians on performances.
Yeah, I think as an engineer, what excites me about performance is that performance is deeply not machine readable. Or it could be, but no one's going to wear that many sensors. And I think there's something that happens in performance. And as an artist and performer, I'm really interested in this activation of a moment that's really profound and not machine readable and very difficult to measure. But as I grow into my practice, I think it's also about performance as a collective experience, where we need more collective experiences. We need more moments of honesty, of reflection, and I think performance is exciting today because it really facilitates that sense of being together in a certain time and place. So I really love it.
And Carol, what about you and music, and how do you concretely work with these great musicians?
Yeah, so I myself don't love being on stage and on performing. So I feel with my robot and AI demos and performances, I'm like that nervous stage mom on the side that's really worried about them tipping over or having to run on stage, or if they fall over, Boston Dynamics style on stage. So
nerve-wracking.
Concretely, I started in this space trying to evaluate a music composition, and back in 2019, I was interested in how good is. I had the opportunity to go to the Grammys and was like, has AI generated a song ever been nominated or won? And what is that process? and was able to work with OpenAI when they were first starting out and co-compose the piece with them with the San Francisco Symphony that ended up being Grammy nominated. And I think it shows me like maybe a window into the process of just how biased humans are, and it opens up just cultural questions on how we evaluate music, how things make us feel. Then I started moving into live performances. And so the symphony gave me reign of evenings with the orchestra. So I had human ballerinas dancing with robot dogs. I had, neuroscience, like I pulled someone from the audience up and you could see their brain activity while they were listening to music. So I'm very interested also in how crowds connect. Because I think for performers, I had asked them, like, don't you want to know what the crowd's feeling tonight? And they're like, I know what the crowd's feeling, but what would be interesting is how the crowd, one person in the audience would like to know how the crowd as a entity together might be feeling that night, and can you pull that into the visual? So we've been working on things of that sort where the crowd now has an impact on the performer and could be a part of maybe the band. So those are where my ideas are headed, is evaluating and having the audience be part of the experience.
Now it's fascinating if you think about collaboration, and of course, Sougwen, Carl mentioned the connection with neuroscience. You've done this amazing work where you connected robotic systems to your brain waves and to your drawing practice. But when I visited your studio more recently, I could realize that your collaboration actually goes beyond the human-machine collaboration, because you now also involve in your deep research silkworms. So I wanted to ask you a little bit, because I think it's interesting in terms of expanding the topic of this morning's conversation to hear about this new adventure you're on.
Yeah, it is an adventure. I'm building systems and simulations to work with these silkworms that I've never worked with before. There's a really interesting material outcome from silkworms, which is silk, that has a whole growth process involved, which I won't detail now, but find me after. But I think what's really exciting about this idea of co-creation and what I'm working on now is that co-creating with machines, working with these systems, means engaging with a wider world. I wanted to learn a little bit more about different approaches to technology beyond material extraction and data gathering. I wanted to take care of a collaborator, a studio mate, in a different way than I had before. And I wanted to understand the process of metamorphosis in an insect. And through all this, I've been able to co-create with them. We're building new circuit boards built from the silk proteins of the silkworm. A really wild reimagining, to the theme of this conference, a wild reimagining of technology and its aims. My robotic system will be there to nurture and take care protocols to nurture this ecosystem. So it's a paradigm shift, and I think that's what we kind of are hungry for as artists, engineers, and designers, and all these people coming together to think through these big ideas of the day. So that's the very basic description of what I'm working on right now.
Thank you. I have a last question, but before that, I just wanted to make sure that we haven't missed out anything. Is there anything in the images you wanted to focus on, or are we good?
No, just trying to find a cool video, but it doesn't look like it's playing it in full. So.
It's very autopilot right now. Yeah.
And for you, is there anything we should look at specifically?
I think I'm here for the conversation, so yeah.
Okay, great. I mean, one thing which is maybe the last question is, and it's kind of my favorite question, as you know, is the question about the unrealized project. Because we know a great deal about architects' unrealized projects because they do publish them all the time, you know, with competitions. But we know almost nothing about all other practitioners' unrealized projects. We actually know very little about scientists or technologists' unrealized projects. We know very little about artists' unrealized projects. And there are, of course, many. We all do have unrealized projects. Some are too big to be realized. Some are too expensive to be realized. Some are too time-intense to be realized. My friend, the late Friederike Mayrock, she was in her 90s. When I saw her last, she said, I have another century of literature to write. So obviously, there were some books there. She didn't have the time, so some projects are just too time intense. Other projects are forgotten projects. One has somewhere in a locker or in a file. Then there is, of course, also the unrealizable projects or utopic projects or dreams. There can also be projects which are censored. And as the late Doris Lessing always told me, Doris Lessing always said there is also the projects we want to do, but we don't dare to do. So that's, self-censored projects. I always wanted to write a novel, but I think it's going to be terribly embarrassing, so I've never done it. So that's a self-censored project. So within that whole range of the unrealized, and particularly interesting, I think, are also unrealized project because maybe one hasn't found the collaborator, particularly as the whole conversation this morning. And I think that's the exciting thing about AI and robotics and collaborations is that it is extremely interdisciplinary and we need to go beyond the fear of pooling knowledge. So it is about people meeting each other. So maybe, because it's a very broad question, it can be really any of your unrealized projects or dreams, but if there is a sort of an unrealized collaborative practice, and as always at DLD, the wonderful thing is that very often when we talk about these unrealized projects at DLD, they actually are then happening. So yeah, let's talk about one or two of your favorite unrealized projects.
Carol, you want to go first?
No, please. Yeah.
Like projects that we would like to do ourselves.
Yeah, or collaborative projects with someone else, or dreams, or.
I think high impact. I actually really love like mass scale, like education style. So especially with young children. So if there are cool opportunities to make children digital natives, that would be exciting. I have an exhibit up at the Exploratorium, and I love the experience of seeing kids of all ages try it out, where they can sketch something and it makes a basically like a music video for them in a new song. But anything to do with educating children, my goal is that robotics and AI is just so normal and boring. It's like your spam filter that we're not talking about it and having it at conferences, and it's just in the background as a tool. And then the human creativity is really at the forefront, because I'd love to see and hear ideas where the human is amplified in a crazier way. So that's what I'm searching for.
I think when I started recording my own biosignal, I realized that that was kind of a communication mechanism with the machining unit, and that really broadened my whole perspective of what my craft and purpose was. So I think my unrealized project is really extending that communication more. It's a living collaboration where all these categories of human, machine, and nature are challenged and threaded together. And I'm working on little stages of that now, but I love this idea that we can create our own metamorphic ecosystems, our own new paths and definitions for all these things. So.
Amazing. That could not be a better conclusion. Of course, I do hope that one day there will be a collaboration between Sougwen and Carol. That's another unrealized project. A big round of applause for Carol and Sougwen. Thank you so much.